How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Scoring from the 50 podcast. Okay, we have a lot of stuff to talk about today. Let's talk, first off, we're going to start with some headlines, some of the biggest stories going on around college football. Then we're going to move to the Oklahoma and Alabama recap. We're going to talk about the Texas and Georgia game. What a game that was. Kirby Smart has got some balls on him, all right? Missouri and Oklahoma is coming up this weekend. And then I'm going to shift gears and talk about the rankings, college football playoff rankings. I have a lot of issues with it. All right, it keeps getting worse every week. And then finally, we're going to close out with the game of the week. USC is going to Autzen Stadium this Saturday. It's going to be a huge Big Ten showdown. Both teams are fighting for their playoff lives. It's a huge weekend. But first, before I get into this, I do want to make sure I say thank you. I mean, the last episode, Scoring from the 50 podcast, had about like 74 reviews. It went really well. I just want to say thank you. I really appreciate you guys' support and seeing that everybody's clicking on my videos. That feels great. I love seeing that. I just wanted to make sure I said thank you for that. And also, don't forget to go down and hit the subscribe button. If you are new, that does just let me know that I'm doing a good job. If I'm not, if you don't think I'm doing a great job, then just go down there, leave a comment, tell me what I can do better, tell me what I can make the podcast better. But let's get into some football. All right, some of the biggest headlines from this past week. Virginia finally took care of Duke. Okay, so that eliminates the doomsday scenario that the ACC was in. If Duke would have went on to win the conference with 4 losses, they could have gotten completely left out of the playoff, all right? But Virginia completely took care of Duke. Not an issue anymore. They are now, 5-5? They are not in the playoff contention anymore if you're Duke. Virginia is very much still alive with that win, all right? Virginia's squarely in the mix for the ACC championship race. They're not ranked very high. They're ranked about 19th, a little bit, 1 spot lower than Michigan, 2 spots lower than Texas. So they're not going to get an at-large. But if they can win the ACC, they will be ranked above the group of 5 teams, so they will get into the playoff with that championship win. But Miami, Georgia Tech, they're still very much in it as well. Pitt is still alive, I believe, as well. So there's a lot of possibilities there, but we know that Duke's eliminated. So finally, we know that at least one team will not win the ACC. Notre Dame, speaking of Pitt, Notre Dame completely throttled Pitt. That game was not close. I didn't think it was going to be close. I think that Pitt really just isn't that good. They don't have the same talent. Plus, you got your coach saying, well, it doesn't even matter if we win. He literally said to the press he does not care if they win that game. So obviously your team's going to see that and be like, all right, well, who cares? You know, if we go in and play like crap, we're going to play like crap. It doesn't matter. So Notre Dame took care of a not mentally right Pitt team. And look, did you see that spin move that Jeremiah Love had on that long touchdown? That guy's the best running back in college football. I don't care. I know his stats don't reflect that. Ahmad Hardy, Justice Haynes has been good. Justice Haynes is hurt, so I think he's kind of out of it. But Ahmad Hardy's up there too. Just pure talent-wise, and if we're talking like NFL projection, Jeremiah Love is by far the best running back in the country this year. And he is so fun to watch, man. You just give the ball to Jeremiah Love. He could score at any moment. He's one of my favorite players to watch. Notre Dame is alive and well in the playoff race, by the way, too. So they could very well win the national championship this year. I would not be surprised in the slightest if Notre Dame goes on and wins the national championship this year. Texas A&M, speaking of teams that could win the national championship, had a huge comeback against South Carolina. 30-3, I believe, was the score at one point. That is worse than the Falcons and Patriots in the Super Bowl in 2017. That is worse than 28-3. You know how hard it is to do that? South Carolina, are you guys committed to Shane Beamer? Like, I know last year, he had a great season last year. Went 9-3, was so close to making the playoffs, just missed it. And you bring back Lenore Sellers, Dylan Stewart, and Nicholas Harbor, and yet you don't win almost at all. I don't even remember what their record is. I know it's not good at all. They're nowhere near what I had them. I think possibly in my top 10. Yeah, I think I had them in my top 10 before the season started, and they have completely failed me. Just one of the bigger disappointments. So, how committed are they to Shane Beamer? I think that's a question that you can start asking. He's not on the hot seat yet. He's not going to be fired this year. But maybe next year, if he doesn't follow this up with a really good year next year, I think you can start to have that conversation about Shane Beamer. You just don't know. But for Texas A&M, how do you look at this game? Do you look at it? It's kind of, we'll talk about the Michigan game in a little bit. The Michigan game was kind of similar. And that, do you look at this as, okay, you played horribly for the first half. You had to win by 2 against one of the worst teams in the SEC. Do you look at that as a negative? Or do you look, okay, you got down 30-3. There's no sign of quit. There's no sign of give up. There's no sign of, oh man, we're down. Who cares? We'll just move on. Let's go to Texas in a few weeks. Like, there's none of that at all for that team. And I think that's a huge, huge win for Mike Elko. I think that is what's going to give them the ability, the mental mindset to go win a national championship if they are able to do that. That's the kind of team that you like to see. That's the kind of response in, we talk about the Ohio State game against Michigan last year and how Ohio State, they lost that game. Mentally, they should have been out of it. But they weren't. They come back and they answered to that really tough moment. Texas A&M just did that against South Carolina. I think it's not the exact same, they didn't lose the game, but they did something similar in which they were down 30-3 at home against a really, really not good South Carolina team, but they still come back. They still had the mental awareness to be able, and mental toughness to come back and beat a team like that. That is insanely impressive in my eyes from Texas A&M, and in my opinion, it's the same for Michigan against Northwestern, right? Michigan, they played a great, about 2.5 to 3 quarters, right? They looked great. I think the defense struggled. The defense shot themselves in the foot every once in a while. They would have penalties on key third downs, key fourth downs, and Michigan, the offense just wasn't moving the ball greatly. Like, I think that there was a few, we didn't get it on a 3rd and short, and then we had to punt or something like that. But nothing too big. I was feeling pretty confident. I got Michigan Stadium on my shirt right now, but I was feeling confident in our offense, more in our offense than our defense. In that first 3 quarters, I was like, okay, you know what? The defense doesn't look great, but we'll figure out the defense. We figure out the defense every year. The offense, though, looked amazing. Andrew Marsh had the best game of his career. He went 12 catches for 189 yards. He could be an absolute superstar. And if he is that for Michigan, watch out. Watch out. If Bryce Underwood can have a weapon like that, along with the tight ends that we seem to always have, he will be able to do things at Michigan that you will have never seen a quarterback do at Michigan before. J.J. McCarthy, if he had a guy like Andrew Marsh, he would have been putting up numbers like you've never seen at Michigan. Like, he would have broken every record, but the receivers just weren't that good. Andrew Marsh, to me, is either a mid to second round talent to a late first round talent. I think that he's going to be really good, and I don't think you've seen a receiver like that at Michigan in a long, long time. So, if Michigan can build off that. Reminder, they are the youngest team in the Big Ten. They started 6 freshmen on offense this year. In that game, sorry. They started 6 freshmen in that game against Northwestern. That is insane. To be able to make all those mistakes, they had 5 turnovers. 5 turnovers. And you still saw Bryce Underwood answer to that. He struggled. He had moments where he could have folded, just like Texas A&M had that moment against USC that they could have folded. They didn't. Neither did Bryce Underwood, neither did Michigan. Bryce Underwood rolls out to his left, makes a huge 20-25 yard throw on 3rd and 10, keeps the drive alive, keeps the chains moving. Insane catch by Andrew Marsh. And then you just run the ball. Kuzdal came in because Jordan Marshall got hurt, which fortunately for Michigan, he should be back next week for Maryland. And again, fully healthy for Ohio State. Nothing too bad. It's just his shoulder landed on it weird, got tweaked. He's okay. Kuzdal comes in, and he's running hard. He's got some explosive speed. He kind of runs straight up, though, so he got killed a couple times. But he ran really well. He would get 3 or 4 yards every single carry, which is exactly what Michigan needed in that moment. So they move the chains. They answer to the 5 turnovers that they have. They had the mental toughness to overcome that, kick a game-winning field goal, and move on. You're still alive. College football playoff hopes are still alive. You just got to beat Maryland, and then it sets up the game against Ohio State in 2 weeks. Watch out. Michigan is coming up. All right, man. My Wolverines, I'm getting my biasness. There wasn't any bias. Now there is biasness, right? We're coming. All right. We're coming. We're going to beat Ohio State. Maybe we'll go to the Big Ten Championship. I don't know how that all works, but we're going to make the playoffs, right? That's my Michigan Wolverines. We're going to come up. All right. But moving on to more important matters. James Franklin has been hired at Virginia Tech. Okay. I think this is a grand slam hire for Virginia Tech. Okay, so James Franklin has been around Tennessee, Penn State, at Vanderbilt. He was in Tennessee, Nashville. And then he goes to Penn State, so he's in Pennsylvania. Now he's at Virginia. So he is very, very aware of that kind of mid-Atlantic area of the country and recruiting, Virginia, West Virginia, the DMV, Penn State, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Ohio. He's good at recruiting those areas, which is exactly where Virginia Tech is. So you take that aspect of it, and then you pair it with the fact that he can't beat top 10 teams. That's the whole reason he got fired. That's the whole reason why he's no longer the coach at Penn State anymore. Well, fortunately for him, currently, there are no top 10 teams in the ACC. So, if he can just beat mediocre teams, which he's known for doing at Penn State, if he can just build his roster to be decent, good enough along the lines of maybe Miami, maybe Clemson, maybe a little bit lower, so maybe around a Georgia Tech, right? If he can get to that level and then reach up and beat a Clemson and a Miami with his coaching, because I know that he's probably the best coach in the ACC now, then Virginia Tech is going to be a force in the ACC, and they will be a force to make the playoff each and every year. So I think this is a great fit. I think Virginia Tech is exactly what James Franklin needed. I think James Franklin is exactly what Virginia Tech needed. So, and again, I always cheer for Virginia Tech, right? That entrance, Enter Sandman, man, that is the most beautiful thing I think that I have ever seen. The whole stadium jumping and rocking. I have never seen in my life a night Virginia Tech game at home against a really, really, really good team. I have never seen that. I've never watched that. I've never been excited and be like, Virginia Tech's playing Clemson this weekend. It's going to be huge. It's like, all right, Clemson's playing Virginia Tech this weekend. Clemson's going to win. That's been my whole life. So if James Franklin can get them to that point of being able to beat those top teams in the ACC, I can't wait. I cannot wait. That's going to be one of my favorite teams every single year. I'm going to be cheering my heart out for James Franklin. I really hope he succeeds. I want to see that place at night so bad. Another coach that has not decided what he's going to do is Lane Kiffin, right? We've heard about him all week. We've been tracking flights. We've been tracking his family going to different schools and everything. No one knows what's going on. No one knows. It got reported that there is an ultimatum from Ole Miss to get a decision by the Egg Bowl against Mississippi State. The last game of the regular season, they need an answer. That's what was reported. Lane Kiffin then goes on the Pat McAfee show and says that there is no ultimatum. That was not real. There's no such thing, anything like that on the table for Lane Kiffin. So, who's telling the truth? Who is telling the truth? Personally, I think that there is. I don't think that they maybe specifically said that to Lane Kiffin. I think that's why he's using that and running with it. Well, they didn't actually specifically say that, but I think that Ole Miss does need an answer, okay? Ole Miss, not only do they need to be able to get a coach in and with the players and be set in stone with everything going forward for the playoffs, but if they do end up losing their coach, then they need to be able to be in a fair race with everybody else to hire a good coach for next year. So Ole Miss has been put in an impossible situation. And you know what sucks? I haven't seen a single person talking about how much this sucks for the Ole Miss players. Even the big media talking heads that I see, like, I don't want to put names out there or anything. I don't want to call people out, but I don't know why. But even the people that have always been players first, fans first, that kind of mindset, I haven't even seen any of them saying this sucks for those Ole Miss players. Ole Miss has a chance to win a national championship this year. They are that good. Their team is that talented. They have the right coaches in place to win a national championship and do something that Ole Miss has never done in their history. So, Lane Kiffin takes that and says, you know what? I actually might want to go somewhere else. That does not make any sense to me. I think I talked about it a little bit last week. Why would you go somewhere that isn't as good as Ole Miss right now? Ole Miss has some of the best NIL in the country. That is hard to find, what he has. He does not get told no almost ever. Lane Kiffin has it great at Ole Miss. His family is there. He's 10 times more healthier than he was 5 years ago. He is in the right spot. He is where he needs to be. I'm a believer that if he leaves Ole Miss, it will be a huge mistake. I don't think he'll be as happy as he is in Oxford. I think there's so many things that could go wrong somewhere else. Like, he has already built Ole Miss up to be a national championship contender. Florida doesn't have that right now. LSU does not have that right now. They could win more national championships than Ole Miss. They have a better likelihood of winning a national championship than Ole Miss. I agree with that. But I think in this new day and age of football, of where Ole Miss is and how likely it is to get NIL support like he has at Ole Miss, at LSU, or Florida, I don't see a way in which he truly has it better off on the field or off the field. So, to me, this is a complete no-brainer. I don't know why you would ever leave Ole Miss and where you're at right now. He has it great. He has a national championship contending team. He's healthy. His family's happy. He's happy. He's got his hot yoga every morning. He is well off. I don't think that Lane Kiffin should leave. I don't know if he will. There's a lot of rumors. There's people on LSU saying, well, he's the done deal. He's going to LSU. People at Florida saying, well, he's going to Florida. It's a done deal. We're going to Florida. And then there's people in Mississippi at Ole Miss who truly don't think that he's staying whatsoever. That's the vibe that I'm getting from what I've seen on Twitter, what I've seen from other talking heads talk about. So I think Lane Kiffin, if I had to guess, would probably end up somewhere other than Ole Miss. I just think that that is his nature. I know he says that he's changed, but I think that if he truly has changed and doesn't want to leave, go chase after something that he thinks that he can have, the grass isn't always greener. Like, if he truly has changed, then I don't think this would be an issue right now. I think he'd already be committed to Ole Miss for next year. I don't think it'd even be a question. So I think that in his nature, Lane Kiffin will end up at either Florida or LSU. If I had to guess, it would be Florida, just because that seems to be a better fit, first off. And second off, I think LSU's hiring process is a complete mess right now. So I don't think that he'll end up at LSU. I think if I had to make a prediction right now, if I had to put money on it, I would say he's at Florida next year. I don't know that. If I were him, I'm staying at Oxford, Mississippi, staying at Ole Miss. I know it's good for me. I know that I have it great at Ole Miss. Why would I ever leave? I don't know. That's up to Lane Kiffin, but again, I think he will end up at Florida if I had to guess, but that is not a prediction at all. It's just, I think that's what would happen. I don't know. No one really knows. None of it matters. What we think does not matter. It's all about what Lane Kiffin and what he is thinking right now. But let's talk about some football games, okay? Oklahoma played Alabama last weekend, and of course, Oklahoma wins that game. Who saw that coming? I mean, who couldn't have seen that coming, right? I'm shocked by this win. Truly, I'm shocked. John Mateer, again, still is not very healthy. He went 15 for 23 for only 138 yards, and then he also rushed for 23 yards and 1 touchdown. That's not a winning stat line from a quarterback. That's just not. They had 2.6, Oklahoma had 2.6 yards per carry against Alabama. That's not a winning stat line either. But they did. How'd they do that? Well, they turned the ball over. I texted my friend about halfway through that game. I think that Oklahoma is the best team in the country at turning the ball over, okay? Ty Simpson threw an interception. Ryan Williams fumbled. There was another fumble. I can't remember who it was, but they had 3 turnovers. All of them huge, key turnovers. The interception was a pick 6. That's a defensive touchdown. That's one of their touchdowns. The other touchdown was John Mateer's legs. The rest just got short fields, kicked a field goal, didn't have to do too much, got points on the board, and they stacked that on top of each other, and eventually Alabama loses that game. Oklahoma has LSU and Missouri left. We will talk about the Missouri game a little bit later. That is going to be one of the better games this weekend. It's not a huge, big slate coming up this weekend, but Missouri and Oklahoma should be a good game. It is at Norman, Oklahoma, but that's going to be a big game. All right, Oklahoma just has to take care of Mizzou, who does not have their quarterback, and they have to go to LSU, who does not have their head coach. So, in theory, this should be Oklahoma's prime chance to make the playoffs. If you would have told me this before the season, Brent Venables is on the hot seat, right? Like, you don't know for sure that he's coming back for another year after this year. He does. He's taking care of business right now. He's doing exactly what you want him to do. I was worried about them going like 6-4, or not 6-4. That's not possible. Like 6-6, 8-4, around those, right? That's what I was hoping for Oklahoma this year, and I think that would have been a good year. Maybe not 6-6, but 8-4. I think would have been a good season for Oklahoma this year. Well, They have 2 losses going into the last 2 games of the season. Everything that they want to play for besides the SEC Championship is ahead of them. They still can make the playoff very easily. They have a prime chance to make the playoffs, okay? They have to take care of Mizzou and LSU. That's it. That's all they have to do. And then they will get into the playoffs. Oklahoma is in a perfect spot to make the playoffs. They just have to take care of business. Now, for Alabama, some problems with Alabama showed up today that I didn't think would. I knew that it could, but I didn't think it ever would. But Ty Simpson was not great against Oklahoma. He went 28 for 42, had 326 yards, a touchdown, and a pick 6. Now, Ty Simpson did not play the best that I've seen him play, but he played decent. He played good enough that I think that Alabama should have won that game. Unfortunately, Alabama cannot run the ball. That has been an issue all year. They had 2.4 yards per carry against Oklahoma. That is not good enough if you're Alabama. Alabama should never, ever be running for less than 3 yards per carry. That is Alabama's DNA, is running the football, being a tough football team. That's Alabama. That's unacceptable. 2.4 yards per carry. Josh Cuevas was the receiver that showed up this weekend. I've talked a lot about how Alabama just kind of has random guys show up from the receiving corps specifically, random guys that show up every week to kind of make up for the fact that Ryan Williams is struggling heavily this year. All right, the turnover problem this year, not even this year, just this game. 3 turnovers, 2 fumbles, 1 pick. What is going on with Ryan Williams? He has had a drop problem all season, and then in this game he fumbles. He's allergic to having the ball in his hands. He was so good last year. And he has shown flashes this year. Again, it's kind of like DJ Lagway at Florida is what reminds me of this. He has flashes of being one of the best players in the country. But for whatever reason, he just has not been able to turn that into consistent production. He has got to get that figured out. He has to be a better, more reliable option for Alabama. He has the talent to do so. He has the talent to be a top 15 pick. He has to be more consistent. Ryan Williams has struggled this year. He has to get this figured out. For Alabama, if you're an Alabama fan, you have got to be extremely nervous right now. What that loss did was set up a must-win game in Jordan-Hare against Auburn. In Jordan-Hare against Auburn, that's got to be so nervous, man. With all the crap that has happened in Jordan-Hare Stadium, you have got to be nervous if you're Alabama. But I think Nick Saban, this is one of the few knacks that anyone will ever have on Nick Saban. And it's the fact that he should have beat Auburn a lot more than he did. I think that he is the greatest coach of all time. No one can argue that. But I think that he kind of had the only bad mindset, and Nick Saban, I struggle to say this because Nick Saban had such a great mindset. I look at what Nick Saban says, and I try to live by what Nick Saban has said in the past every day. He talks about being process-oriented. That's my goal with this podcast. I mean, that's my philosophy to this podcast. I understand, 74 views last week was great for me. I loved that. But I don't do it for the views. I understand that, man, there's going to be some of my clips. I also uploaded a clip last week that got 10 views. That's not very good, man. But I love doing this. So I know that if I just put out videos and I just work hard at what I know I love doing, then the results will come eventually. I get that from Nick Saban. Nick Saban is what talked about that. I learned that from Nick Saban, and now I try to implement that into my everyday life. So by no means am I saying that Nick Saban had a bad mindset. I'm not knocking Nick Saban whatsoever. But I think that he fed into the lore of Jordan-Hare more than he should have. I think that you see it on College Game Day whenever he talks about it. He's like, man, I do not want to play there. That is a place of nightmares, I think he said at one point. I don't think that that's the right way to look at it. I think if you're Kalen DeBoer, you're going into this Auburn game and thinking, guys, they fired their head coach. They're not a good football team. They do not have an offense. They don't have a good record. We are immensely better than them. Go into that stadium, go against Auburn, do what you do what you've done all year, and we will be just fine. You should not be going into this being worried just because it's Auburn, just because it's at Jordan-Hare Stadium. Alabama should be fine. If they go into that with that mindset, I think that they will be fine. I think that they'll win that game, go to the playoffs, compete for national championship, whatever. If they go into it with a mindset of, oh no, like you can't go into that with your knees shaking, legs shaking. You can't go into that being nervous just because of where the game's at and who you're playing. Go into it, faceless team, nameless team. Just go in there, take care of business. Doesn't matter who it is, doesn't matter where it's at. Go in there, do what you need to do what you've done all year, do what you know you can do, and Alabama will be in the playoff. Another huge game this last weekend. Texas played Georgia, and I think that Kirby Smart has lost his mind. Oh my gosh, we'll get to that in a second. Arch Manning didn't play all that bad. Arch Manning went 27 for 43, 251 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. I don't think this is on Arch Manning. I think part of the issue, the biggest issue with this game, was their offensive line. They ran for 1.5 yards per carry, and they also gave up 3 sacks and 7 tackles for loss. That's on the O-line. That's not good enough. But the second biggest problem was that Texas didn't have the ball. Texas scored a touchdown to make it 14-10. They had all the momentum in the world. Their defense does their job. They get the stop. They get a 4th down. It's like 4th and 1, 4th and 2. 9 times out of 10, that is a punt situation. For whatever reason, it's on their own 30-yard line. And Georgia, Kirby Smart, decides to go for it. Texas has all the momentum. If they get the ball back, they're going to go score. It's 17-14. I think that they could win that game if Kirby Smart chooses to, if Kirby Smart doesn't get that 4th down. I think Texas wins this game. But he got the 4th down. Not only that, later in the drive, I think about on their 20 to 30 yard line, the Texas's 20 to 30 yard line, that is, 4th and 5. And I don't know if they were lining up for a hard count. I don't know exactly what happened, but if it was just a hard count, it worked. They got Texas to jump off sides, chuck it deep, and complete pass. I think it actually was a pass interference, which got some 15 more yards. So, huge decision to even send your offense back out there on 4th and 5. So, 2 crazy decisions on one drive. It's like, oh my God, Kirby Smart might be a genius. And then you're like, okay, so the score's back to 21-10. It's still a 2-possession game. Texas is still down by quite a bit, but they're going to get the ball back. Let's see what they can do. And then they kick an onside kick and they get the ball. What? What was the thought process there? If you're Kirby Smart, why would you give them the ball on your own 30-yard line? They could have scored so easily from that, and yet they choose to kick a onside kick and they get it. What? Did they practice that? I know for a fact that Kirby Smart had to have practiced that. And you know what? I thought just popped into my brain, not written down or anything. I think that he had that Notre Dame game last year where, what was it? Marcus Freeman had the punt team out there, subbed him off, sent on the offense really quickly, and then got him to jump off sides. I think that rocked Kirby Smart to his core because he got out coached in that moment. His team was not prepared for that. And you know what? I think he decided in that moment right there, you know what? I'm going to do that to other people from now on. I'm not letting my team ever have that happen to them again. So I think that Kirby Smart took that personally, and now he's just doing crazy crap. I can tell that he loves this team, man. I can tell that this is a Kirby Smart Georgia team. This isn't a Carson Beck Lamborghini team, all right? This is a Gunnar Stockton Ford F-150, physical, tough, do whatever it takes, gritty, Kirby Smart Georgia team. He loves this team. This is the kind of team that he's always wanted. Not the most talented. It's not the 21 or 22 defenses. It's just a team that does what they're told, does what they need to do, and gets the job done. And it is my favorite Georgia team that I have watched ever. So now looking back to Texas, all right, the playoffs are out. Playoffs are no longer in sight. I am assuming, as long as they don't blow out Texas A&M and then another few things also go their way, that they will not get into the playoff. So, assuming they lose to Texas A&M, is this a successful season for Texas? Someone asked that question to Steve Sarkisian a few days ago, and he was like, well, they asked if it was a failure, and he was like, a failure to who? Like, we've played so many ranked teams, of course we're going to lose 3 games. Well, I think that wasn't the goal going into this season. So I think if you're a Texas fan, you've got to be extremely disappointed in this team this year. Not only did you lose 3 games, you're going to miss out on the playoffs and everything, but the goal was to make the playoffs. The goal whenever you're the number 1 team in the country to start the year, you should make the playoffs. That's unexcusable. It's the same thing at Penn State. They should have made the playoffs. They didn't do that. Whenever you have that high of expectations, a national championship level of expectations, you have to at least make the playoffs. Now, they can do something similar to what Michigan did last year and beat Texas A&M, have a really, really good end to the season, and take that momentum into next year. The problem with that is that I don't think it's going to happen, and it doesn't change the fact that you were the number 1 team in the country this year. You have fallen out of the playoff contention altogether. You have got to be disappointed, man. I don't even know where you go from here if you're Texas. I think it's really just the offensive line. You have Ryan Wingo, you have Arch Manning next year. Just fix the offensive line. Don't give up 3 sacks. Don't give up 7 TFLs against Georgia. Don't run the ball for 1.4 yards per carry. And you win that game. I think that the talent level is there. You just have to fix that offensive line. I think they'll be there. Fix a few culture issues. I think that there might be a little tweaks that Steve Sarkisian needs to be there. He has not that far away from being where he needs to be, but I think there's just a few more tweaks he needs to make. I think next year they will be really good as long as they can fix that offensive line. For Georgia, I didn't even talk about the stats and how statistically they did in this game. Gunnar Stockton went 24 for 29, 229 yards, 4 touchdowns, and an interception. Gunnar Stockton played out of his mind. They ran for 3.7 yards per carry as well. I think one of the most important parts of Georgia this year is that their wide receiver room has gotten immensely better than what it was last year. They had 6 guys with 20-plus receiving yards against Texas. That is huge. That would have been complete alien talk to a Georgia team last year. 6 guys with 20-plus receiving yards. Again, the insane decisions that Kirby Smart made, just an insane game. That's exactly what you wanted to see if you're a Georgia fan. My friend that I was talking to about the Kirby Smart being crazy, he is a huge Georgia fan, and we've talked about him on the show before. He loves this team. He told me he loves how this team is playing. I think all Georgia fans will agree with that. This is exactly how you wanted Georgia to look going into the end of the season. And again, if Gunnar Stockton can throw for 229 yards and 4 touchdowns every game, you're going to win the national championship if you're Georgia, okay? That defense just needs to play good, bend, don't break, and I think Georgia is a very, very real national championship contender this year. Now, let's go back to Oklahoma, okay? They got a big game against Mizzou this weekend. Oklahoma, like we said earlier, is in a great position to make the playoffs. Just win 2 games. Mizzou this weekend, LSU next weekend, and you're good. Matt Zollers, what is he going to do? He's a true freshman. We really don't know much about him so far. That is a huge question mark to me. I think that he is good enough to do so. I think he has the weapons to have a really good game. But Missouri's run game, I think, will be stopped against Oklahoma. Oklahoma is the number 2 rushing defense in the country. They allow 78 rushing yards per game and 2.3 rushing yards per carry. Okay, Ahmed Hardy, though, has been one of the best running backs in the country. He has 1,346 yards already, 6 yards per carry, and the team as a whole is averaging 5.6 yards per carry as a team. So, I'm not sure which side of the ball is going to win that battle. One of the best running games in the country, one of the best running defenses in the country. For Oklahoma, though, I'm not worried about their pass game at all. I think that's one of the biggest flaws to Oklahoma's team right now is that their offense is just not that good, right? They can't run the ball. They can't throw the ball because John Mateer's thumb, I don't think, is still healthy. So, how do they score points? Well, I think they're going to do exactly what they did to Tennessee and exactly what they did to Alabama. Force turnovers. They just have to force turnovers. And even better for them, they're facing a true freshman at quarterback. So, how I see this game going is just Oklahoma All they need to do is just force short fields, force turnovers, force mistakes from Missouri, and I think that they will get short fields, score field goals, right? Add a couple touchdowns on top of that, and I think that they will be just fine. I think Oklahoma should take care of business against the Mizzou team. The only issue that I might have is Missouri's run game. The run game is really good, but Oklahoma has an answer to that. Again, number 2 rushing defense in the country. So, Oklahoma, take care of business, force turnovers, do what you've been doing all season. I understand that turnovers can be kind of a randomized stat. They don't always show up. Sometimes they show up randomly. Like Michigan, I keep talking about the Michigan game because that is what is on my mind. That's the game that I cared the most about this weekend because I didn't think it'd be that close. But Michigan, they were +5 turnovers before this game. Northwestern was -3. So Michigan should have the turnover edge, right? Well, no, they gave up 5 turnovers to 0 turnovers. So again, that is a very randomized stat. And I don't think that you can bank on that every single week if you're Oklahoma. But I think you can against a true freshman quarterback making his only, 3rd start of his career. So I think that that is a huge plus if you're Oklahoma. You're facing true freshmen. I think it's going to be really easy for them to force turnovers. And I think that Oklahoma should be able to win this game pretty easily. Just do what you've been doing all season. Let's pause, shift gears here. I want to talk about the college football playoff rankings. I do not like what they did from the 5 to 15 to 16 range whatsoever. That made no sense to me. The first point I want to make, what is so special about BYU? What is so different about BYU from every other one-loss team in the country? They play in the Big 12. Well, Texas Tech is a Big 12 team. They're ranked 5th. Why are they so far behind them? They're a one-loss team, but the next one-loss team is Georgia Tech, down at number 16. BYU is at 11. They're in between Texas Tech and Georgia Tech, but all 3 of those teams have 1 loss. What is so special about them? What is so much different from every other one-loss team? What's so different about Georgia Tech all the way down at 16? Why are they down at 16? They have 1 loss, and they're in a Power 4 conference. Same with Virginia. They have 1 loss, and they're below even more teams. They're below Texas and Michigan, who both have 2 losses or 3 losses. So all I'm asking for is consistency here, right? I want 1 loss. I think the ACC and the Big 12 are around the same level. So why is the ACC not getting recognized as much as the Big 12? And why are teams in the Big 12 not getting recognized as much as other Big 12 teams? So why is BYU being punished and Georgia Tech being punished for being in a weaker conference, not playing the better schedules? Yet, Utah is above all of these other 2-loss teams. They're above Miami's and Vanderbilt's of the world. They're above USC's and Michigan's and Texas of the world. So, why is BYU being brought down, not up to the level of Ole Miss or Oregon, when Utah is being raised to the level of Michigan, USC, teams like that only have 2 losses? That does not make any sense to me. Notre Dame has the same record as Miami. They lost to Miami, but they are 4 spots higher than them. That makes no sense. They lost to Miami. They played on the game. They played on the field. They have the same record. Miami should be above them. That makes no sense. No sense to me at all. If 2-loss Notre Dame and 2-loss Alabama are above BYU, then so should a 2-loss Miami, so should a 2-loss USC, so should a 2-loss Michigan. Virginia only has 1 loss, and especially a 2-loss Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt is playing in the SEC. They have beaten good teams this year. Why are they not above Utah? Why are they not above a Notre Dame? Why are they not near Alabama? They shouldn't be above Alabama. Alabama beat them. But why are they not closer to Alabama? In a game that was close. They were close, and it was at Bryant-Denny Stadium. So that is even more against Vanderbilt. An even tougher result for Vanderbilt. And they still played pretty well. So if we're just talking about quality losses, which it seems that they care about with Notre Dame, why do we not care about Vanderbilt's quality losses? That does not make any sense to me whatsoever. Vanderbilt should be much higher. Much, much, much higher. Above Utah, that's for sure. That's for sure. Miami, I get that they've lost to not good teams. But they beat Notre Dame. They should be ahead of Notre Dame. They should be one of the best wins any team has in the country, right? They should be above Notre Dame. They should be above Utah. They should be above BYU. If you're going to put BYU below some 2-loss teams, you're going to have to put them below all the 2-loss teams. That does not make sense to me. That does not make sense to anyone, okay? Now, I say that before I say that BYU should be much higher, okay? This is how I would have this little range, right? So it's the same as the playoff rankings. I think Texas Tech and Ole Miss should stay at 5 and 6. Oregon should stay at 7. BYU will jump from 11 to number 8, with Miami at number 9, and then Notre Dame at number 10. Alabama is slightly below Notre Dame at 11, with Vanderbilt, because of their close loss to Alabama is slightly below Alabama at 12. Now we're into the thick of the 2-loss teams, right? So you go from Vanderbilt to number 13 USC to number 14 Michigan, and then number 15 Georgia Tech. So, and then number 16 even lower. Utah is lower than Georgia Tech at 16. I might want to switch that now that I'm thinking about it. I don't think I can have Utah as 2 losses below all these other teams and below Georgia Tech. But I think you can recognize the fact that Georgia Tech has not played anyone. They have not played Miami. They haven't played any of the top ACC teams at all. So I think that Georgia Tech, it is okay for them to be lower, right? Because you don't have any other ACC teams up there besides a Miami that is anywhere near them, right? And they haven't played Miami. They haven't played anyone nearly as good as Miami. So I think that Georgia Tech should be dropped. That's the one exception that I have to the rules that I just made. I know I just said all that. But I think because of their schedule in the ACC and the fact that not only are they in the ACC, but they haven't played anybody good in the ACC, they should be lower. And I think that I would also put them below Utah. I think so. Change it from 13 USC to 14 Michigan, 15 Utah, 16 Georgia Tech. Now, again, Georgia Tech, everything that they want is still ahead of them. They are still one of the favorites to win the ACC. They still have to play Georgia. So they can prove to everybody still that they should be in the playoffs. So everything's still to play for Georgia Tech. I'm more than willing to move them up if they can win a game that I don't think that they'll win against Georgia. Or if they win the ACC, they're going to be in the playoffs anyway. So that is not a knock on Georgia Tech. I have a ton of respect for what they've done. I just don't think it's as good as what other teams have done this year at 2 losses compared to their 1 loss. But yes, my point is BYU should be a lot higher. I think that Miami should be ahead of Notre Dame. Alabama should be slightly above Vanderbilt. And I think you can throw in some 2 Big Ten teams at USC and Michigan. And the team that dropped a lot, what I think should drop, is Texas. They have 3 losses. They should be around Tennessee's range, right? They have 3 losses. They should not be anywhere near a Michigan or USC, or maybe they should be a little bit lower than a Michigan or USC in the rankings. So those are my rankings of what they should be, because I feel like I can't give out my rankings I can't critique the college football playoff rankings without giving out my rankings. So that's how I view the rankings and where 5 through 16 should be. The 1, 2, 3, 4 all seems great to me. I believe that is Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, Georgia. That's perfect. I'm more than okay with how that is. Just from 5 to 16, I think that is the issue that I have. Now, let's get back to the biggest game of the weekend. USC is going to Autzen Stadium in Oregon, okay? I think the key to this game is going to be on the ground. USC has 5.7 yards per carry versus Oregon's 6.3 yards per carry. Now, the way I view this is USC is more of 2 guys, right? They got King Miller, 719 yards, Wayman Jordan at 576 yards. So, I think that they do it more of just 2 guys, give them the ball, they'll do what they need to do. Oregon, on the other hand, is more spread out. They have Noah Whittington, who is around 600 yards, and then Jordan Davison, Deer Hill, all at over 400 yards. So, Oregon's more by committee. USC has more solid guys. Who has the quarterback advantage in this game? Dante Moore and Jane Mayava has been 2 of the best quarterbacks all season. Dante Moore has less yards, but has been a little less reckless with the ball. He has 2,190 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions, and a 72% completion percentage. Jade Mayava, on the other hand, has a lot more passing yards, 2,868 yards with 18 touchdowns less, 6 picks, one more than Dante Moore. But I think the key to why I believe Dante Moore, and it's not by much, has a slight edge on Jaden Maiava, and I think that is because of the completion percentage. 72% to 66% for Jaden Maiava. So, if I had to pick, I'm going with Dante Moore. That would be my quarterback for this game. But the X factor, which can completely flip that on its head, is Makai Lemon. He has been one of the best receivers in the country. He has 1,090 yards, 8 touchdowns already this season. So, Oregon has a very depleted receiving room on for them. So, Dak Moore, is he going to be healthy? Gary Bryant, is he going to be healthy? I have heard rumors that Evan Stewart could be back for this game this weekend. We don't know for sure, but Evan Stewart, who is one of the best receivers from last year, got hurt in the spring, has not played all season. I thought he was done for the season. He is apparently not. He will be back at some point this season. Evan Stewart could be back for this game. We don't know. We will find out when the injury report comes out. So, if he comes back, if he's back this weekend, I think that is going to be huge for Oregon to have a good, solid, healthy receiver room. That is going to be huge for them. Now, USC is allowing 21 points per game. Oregon is only allowing 13, so I think that Oregon has the defensive advantage in this game. But I think that Oregon's pass defense is a little inflated, okay? Oregon only allows 119 yards per game. On the flip side, USC gives up 198. So two good defensive passing teams. Passing defensive teams. But I think that Oregon's is a little inflated. The one time that Oregon has had to play a really good receiver room, I think it has been against Indiana, and they kind of got torched a little bit. So I think that Makai Lemon might be able to have a big game here. But I think that Makai Lemon could have a big game against Oregon. So if Oregon's pass defense is a little inflated, and I think that they're not as good as it says, but they're only giving up 13 points per game. Where do we look for that? Where can we go to figure out who's going to win this game? I think it's the rushing defense, all right? USC is giving up 4.4 yards per carry and 105 yards per game. USC has one of the best offensive run games in the country. I think that they have been great running the ball this season. But Oregon has only given up 3.3 yards per carry and 115 yards per game on the ground. So I think that Oregon has the advantage there. I think Oregon will be able to stop the run. I think they'll be able to turn USC into a one-dimensional football team, which is what USC has been scared of this whole year because they have been adamant in making themselves into a team that can run the ball and be a physical upfront team, win with the offensive line. I think that Oregon wants them to try and do that this weekend. I think that Oregon will be able to stop that run. I think it's kind of flipped in what you would normally think in a football game. I think USC will have to pass the ball to open up the run. I think if they start off passing the football, I think if they hit a few plays to Makai Lemon deep, I think Oregon will stop allocating resources to stop that, and they will forget about the run, and then USC can do what they wanted to do all year. If USC falls into this trap of wanting to run the ball and prove to people that they are just a running team and they have to be able to prove that they're physical, I think if they want to prove that to people and they go out there and try to just prove that, that's where they're going to do something completely wrong. Throw the ball. Throw the ball to set up the run. I think that's how USC should win this game. It's just a question of if they do that, though. Oregon, again, they are running the ball really, really, really well. 6.3 yards per carry for Oregon. I think that will lead them to be able to run the ball against USC. So if they can run the ball against USC, that kind of will negate the fact that their receiver room is not healthy whatsoever. So I think that this old Pac-12 game is going to be won by Oregon. Okay, that is my pick. I just think that Oregon will be able to stop what USC does best, and that is running the football. And I think that if you take that away from USC, I don't know if Jaden Mayava will be able to throw the ball as well as he has all season. I think you saw this in the Illinois game. Illinois took away the run for USC, had to throw the ball, and they lost. I think it's a similar script here. Plus, not only does this a playoff game essentially for USC, if they lose, they are out, but I can't guarantee that Oregon gets in with 2 losses. They will not have a good win whatsoever. They played Indiana, and they lost. They played Penn State, and I think that they deserve a ton of credit for beating Penn State, even though they turned out to not be a very good team. I think they're not a very good team because they lost to Oregon. So I think they deserve a lot more credit than what they're going to get. But again, they're not going to get that credit for a good win whenever Penn State has been one of the worst teams in the Big Ten. So I don't know if Oregon will get in, and I think Dan Lanning knows that. I think he's telling his team that. So I think that they will be ready. I think they will come out hot. I think they will start off on fire. I think that they will come through and do what they need to do to beat USC. I think this is going to be a huge game. I think it's going to be an amazing game. I have no confidence in this pick whatsoever. I'm just telling you guys my thought process and where my thought went to pick this game. I think Oregon's going to take care of business. But man, someone could very easily convince me that USC is going to win this game as well. So maybe truly it's just because of home field advantage. Maybe that's the reason why I really think Oregon's going to win this game. I don't know. I truly do not know who's going to win this game. If I had to pick, I'm picking Oregon for all the reasons I just laid out, but you don't know. I cannot wait for this game, man. It's going to be another great weekend of college football. It's one of those weekends that you look at the slate and it doesn't seem great, right? But there's that kind of slate every like 2 or 3 times a season where it's like, man, the games just aren't great this weekend. Those are some of the best weekends of college football, though, because you get upsets, you get close games that shouldn't have been close games, you get, like, there was a weekend a few weeks ago with, like, Michigan and Nebraska was, like, the best game, but it ended up being one of the best days of college football all season. I loved it. I loved that day. It was one of the best days that we've had all year. So I think something similar could happen this weekend, especially with this Oregon and USC Pac-12 football on CBS. Thank God that CBS finally has a good game. Man, I don't know for the life of me why Penn State and Michigan State was on CBS last weekend, but Iowa and USC was on Big Ten Network. That didn't make any sense to me whatsoever, but I'm excited. I cannot wait for this game. CBS finally has the game of the week. It's been a really long time since we've seen that. It's going to be a good weekend. We got Oklahoma and Mizzou. That's also going to be a really good game. Oregon and USC, going to be a great game. I'm looking forward to it. And then a week from this weekend, we got rivalry weekend. It's the weekend to decide who's going to be truly in the place to be, who is truly going to be in a spot to make the college football playoff. We are so close. It is coming down to the wire, guys. 2 more weeks of regular season, a conference championship, and then we have the playoffs. All right, I cannot wait. It's going to be a great end of the season. I will be in this stadium for rivalry weekend against Ohio State. I can't wait. I'm going to be cheering my heart out for my Michigan Wolverines. I know plenty of other people are going to games these next 2 weeks. I hope you guys have a great time there. I cannot wait. I just hope everyone watches games, sit back, relax, enjoy some football this weekend. It's going to be a great weekend. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, if you guys are still here, if you're still watching and you're not subscribed, we're about 50 to 55 minutes in, depending on how much I cut up of this. If you're this far into this and you're not subscribed, what are you doing? You clearly liked the episode, so just hit the subscribe button. Show me some love. I really appreciate it. It would mean a ton to me. I love getting support and feedback on this podcast because I want to make it as good as I possibly can. So if you're still here, tell me something that I can go do in the comments that can make this better. Tell me something I should talk about. Some if I could get more specific in my different things that I talk about, like I get more specific in the reactions or the previews, or give more stats, give less stats. Tell me what I can do better. Tell me what you want to see. Tell me what you want to hear, and then I will think about it and see if I actually want to do that. But again, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I will see you guys again, hopefully next week. I'm not 100% sure what my schedule is going to be, or if I could or could not get a podcast uploaded next week. We will see. Not 100% sure on it. We'll see. I will try my absolute hardest. If not, I will at the very least get a few episodes uploaded or a few little clips or something. We got to talk about rivalry weekend, man. It's the greatest weekend in sports. I can't wait. I can't wait. I will see you guys again next week. Have a great weekend. I hope you guys enjoy your weekend. Watch football. Relax. We'll see what goes on with the playoffs, playoff rankings. Who's in? Who's in? It's that old slogan from ESPN. Who's in? I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I will see you guys next week.